Okay, so let's get started. So thank you everybody for joining us today. It's a little bit past 9, so I appreciate everybody's patience while we work through that. My name is Mike McCarron. We're going to go through some introductions here in just a bit, but welcome to our webinar and our session for today. We have a great conversation and discussion and lineup of things to talk about today. And we are joined by our friend Mara Castro from Warby Parker, as well as Stella Connect. So this is a joint discussion and dialogue around customer service and the future of customer experience 2020 and beyond. As we get into the conversation today, let me just ask Justin and Mara to do very quick intros. We're going to hear from more of them later, but let's have them just do a quick introduction to sort of talk about our panels for the day, and then I'll dive right into the agenda and get started with our conversation. So Justin, over to you for a quick intro.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Hey, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon to our East Coasters. My name is Justin Cruz, Senior Client Success Manager at Stella Connect. Really excited to be a part of the conversation today and talk to you a little bit about what Stella Connect is all about and the importance of visibility and agent performance and getting real-time feedback. So excited to share more, but I want to hand it off to really the star of today's event, which is Mara Castro from Warby Parker.
Thank you, Justin. I'm excited here to share about my two favorite vendors, Gladly and Stella. So hi, everyone. I am head of customer experience at Warby Parker, and looking forward to walking you through the journey of Warby Parker in the last 10 years of customer experience, and hopefully giving you insight as to why we love Stella and Gladly.
Super. Thanks, Mara. And I'm Mike McCarron. I run the sales organization here at Gladly. I originally started with Gladly about 4 years ago in the customer success role. So I was running that particular team. And that gave me an opportunity to work with all of our great customers that have gone through the onboarding and deployment and integration of Gladly into the customer service experience for their brands. And just really, really excited about today's conversation. Hope you are as well. Big thank you to Justin, big thank you to Mara and the rest of the team, both at Stella and at Warby Parker at large, for all the work that they've done to get us to this point. And we've got some really, really exciting things to share today. As far as the agenda goes, it's a pretty simple agenda. We're going to start out, for those of you who are on today's conversation, you may know a little bit about Gladly, but not much about Stella, or vice versa. You might know, a bunch about Stella and not much about Gladly. We're going to do a quick overview of both the Gladly and the Stella sort of business product offering and the business problem that each of us solve. And we're going to sort of use that as a setup to then sort of lead into a great fireside chat with Mara to talk about her journey at Warby Parker and all the things that they have done over the course of the last 10 years to really build this core foundational customer experience component of the company and what it means to do that, and also how Mara and the team have started to leverage and use technology to help them even further that mission around customer experience. Then what we're going to do is we're going to segue out of that conversation, and we're going to actually show you the product in action. We're going to show you Gladly, sort of the actual product. We're going to do a quick demo, and then we're also going to show the integration that we have with Stella to allow for the interaction between customer-centered service, all channels in one, and feedback and coaching and scoring of agent performance and things like that in the Stella product. So lots of great things there. The final session you have, as you know from seeing the webinar sort of series that we have today and the webinar capabilities, you'll have an opportunity to do a breakout session. So you can go break out into a Gladly session or break out into a Stella session if you have more questions, you want to get more details specifically about either of the two product offerings, and we can dive even deeper into that. For people who do have questions along the way, feel free to chat those in, and you can actually sort of like make those chats public in the chat forum. We'll do our best to answer the questions along the way. If we don't get to them, we'll certainly try to get to those during the breakout sessions. So let's actually start, we'll start with the Gladly side. So I have the floor. I'll sort of take a point on this one, and I'll run through about a 5 to 7 minute overview of Gladly, making sure that people know and understand a little bit about the problem that Gladly set out to solve about 5 years ago. And one of the fundamental things that we looked at as an early company was that the world around consumer behaviors and consumer interactions with brands had changed significantly, largely because there was just this wave of innovation and technology, largely iPhones and Android devices, that were essentially allowing consumers to engage brands in all channels at all times, and it allowed them to seamlessly switch from channel to channel whenever they wanted to. So we kind of think about this bigger picture, which is, imagine a future where you have a true understanding of who the customer is, you have a true understanding of their purchase behaviors, their preferences, their styles, as well as the history of communications that you've had with them, and you allow them as consumers and you as a customer experience team to seamlessly interact and to seamlessly switch from one channel to the other. So could start with an email, then go to a text message, could then go to a phone call, which then could go to a secure chat that allows for payment to be processed. All of these things can happen in one system with Gladly, and it allows for the consumer to seamlessly move from channel to channel, and it allows the agents that are working with them to also basically follow along in that conversation without having to look for tickets or cases or past conversations that are stored in different siloed systems along the way. Now, the problem or the challenge, and we'll hear a little bit about this from Mara later this morning, is that a lot of the customer service platforms and the customer service technology that existed 5 years ago, or even now for that matter, is that it focuses customer service on cases and tickets. And that case and ticket model works great for the business to business world, but it doesn't necessarily work well for the business to consumer world. And as a result, consumer expectations are rarely met. And then even brands' expectations of how they want to engage their customers are never met. And that largely happens because the systems and the technology on the back end aren't designed well for this new consumer world. So again, you've got cases and tickets as the foundational core elements. You have channels that are siloed or bolted on together, where you have a form system, an email system, and a chat system that aren't necessarily talking to one another, and they don't have context in the fact that the customer is using different channels to communicate. Those customers that are moving from channel to channel cause the situation where multiple cases or tickets get created. All of a sudden, you're duplicating or tripling the work effort required for the agents to actually resolve issues. Knowledge bases are oftentimes all over the place. There's not necessarily one place to have them all in a single location. There's oftentimes not a really good self-help for web and mobile, including some of the automation that needs to be done. And then the UI that agents have to use to engage customer service is rarely designed in such a way that allows for them to be efficient and to drive productivity, which again, costs a lot of money. So the opportunity that Gladly had many years ago was to think about, what if we could reinvent the concept of customer service for the business to consumer market? What would we do and how would we focus on that? Again, being more innovative, customer service, we've built a platform and built a product that really is organized around the person or the consumer at the center. And we bring all the channels into one view, whether that's SMS, chat, Facebook, email, and voice. They're all included in one. And the agent experience is consistent across those channels, and the customer never has to sort of repeat or retell their story along the way. We also have an ability to do secure payments through chat, which is a great way for customer experience teams that are in sort of the retail and commerce business to start to drive more revenue in the contact center and not be viewed purely as just a cost center. Have the ability to go to mobile, SDKs for iOS and Android. We also sort of empower lots of self-service from a knowledge-based perspective, which we can show you in the demo a little bit later. And then as you'll see in the product demo, very intuitive modern UI. Agents are up to speed on how to use Gladly in a matter of hours. So the training to get up to speed and to get going is actually quite simple. So the idea is, like, Gladly was created to sort of challenge and to think differently about customer service. And we have essentially 4 main pillars. I'll go through these very, very quickly. Then I'll hand it over to Justin to give an update and an overview of Stella. But the idea is that Gladly has essentially 4 main core pillars that we think about when we think about service. And first is, it's all about people. We talked about this already, but again, it's a really core foundational element of how we've designed the product and how we've actually thought about solving the business to consumer customer service challenges, which is There's no tickets and cases. Everything is built around the consumer, the interactions, the information you have about them, the contextual data that you bring to the agent's attention as part of that interaction. It's all built into one. We route customers based on sort of what we know about them, whether they're loyalty program, recent purchases, or maybe they've actually sort of been having challenges in the past, including sort of some of the Stella feedback. If there's a great feedback mechanism in place, you can actually also start to do some interesting routing based on how happy or unhappy is that customer based on the last interaction. Agents have all the details of who the customer is at their disposal. You'll see that in the demo as well. Purchase history, preferences, styles, things of that nature. And customers are getting the personalized experiences that they expect to get, not very transactional experiences that they would normally get with a ticketing or case management system. The second pillar is this concept of a lifetime conversation, which is that regardless of the channel, regardless of the way in which a consumer reaches out to the brand, we want to make it such that the conversation is just this ongoing threaded conversation where you have emails and phone calls and chats and SMS text messaging and Facebook Messenger, direct messaging, all of those channels all included into one and just organized by time on a timeline, right? So we can kind of see that as well. This allows for both customers and agents to move seamlessly from one channel to another. And because we're routing the customer, there's never a situation where a customer's issues are separated or fragmented across two different channels, thus creating two different teams doing work on that customer. All the channels are supported in one, natively built. So we have a natively built voice system along with all the digital channels as well. And again, the agent experience remains the same, regardless of which channel the actual agent is using or the customer is using. It's all there. And then, of course, you can kind of consolidate and save some money from a systems perspective because you're not paying 3 and 4 and 5 different vendors for all the different channels. It's all included into one. The third pillar that we talk about is all about sort of productivity and making sure that agents are productive in terms of their day-to-day work operations. So again, the modern, easy-to-use interface allows for people to do work faster, having knowledge or what we call answers in one place to be able to author them for both reference material, for email templates, for public self-service, or for messaging templates. All those are included in one. We can collaborate across teams by leveraging a concept called tasks inside of Gladly. So if you have frontline and backline teams sort of working together, you can actually delegate some work to the backline to actually carry out some of the requests and asks of the customer, but allow the customer service team and the customer experience team to front end all the communications you're having with those customers. Machine learning powered suggestions. We've got great sort of machine learning and AI behind the scenes that drive operational efficiency as well. And one of the things you'll see as part of the demo today is the fact that you can incorporate feedback from CSAT tools like Stella to bring into the conversation timeline to give agents real-time insight into how well did that interaction go, what was the customer's feedback, how can I improve, which, as you'll hear later, that's a really powerful way to keep the team engaged in terms of their performance and how they're actually doing work with the customers. And then the last item, the last sort of pillar is all about sort of empowering the supervisors and managers to do their job well, right? Real-time views into customer volumes, SLA achievement, agent activity, the kinds of topics or trends that are sort of like happening inside of the contact center, making sure that we're doing what we need to around SLA enforcement and making sure that the routing is done properly to ensure that the customer who needs help next is getting routed to the next available agent. We actually leverage sort of push and concurrency to allow for multiple chats, messaging, and digital to all happen at the same time. So you can have a single agent working 2 or 3 different channels or 3 different customers at the same time, which allows for productivity gains, allows for efficiency within the team as well. You can also look at all the reports. You don't have to aggregate your voice reporting with your email reporting, with your chat reporting. It's all embedded into one single view. Because we own all the channels inside of Gladly, all the reporting can be pulled from Gladly collectively as well. We can also see what's happening in real time with regards to topics, in regards to the trends. So what are customers raising as issues along the way? Quick slide here that just talks about these are the kinds of companies that Gladly is working with as it pertains to customer-centered service. And you'll see a variety of different kinds of companies. There's travel and hospitality and retail and commerce. There's startups, there's established brands. The idea here is that regardless of the industry that a client or a customer is in, or regardless of the size, what's important to these brands, as well as I imagine to many on the phone today and on the webinar, is that the importance of knowing your customer and delivering customer-centered service. That's a very critical and a very important part of ensuring that when you actually go out to try to deliver great service, you're doing it with the customer at the center and the customer in mind. So just as a highlight and a wrap up, and then I'll hand it over to Justin, is that the legacy approach, the old way of doing service, and frankly, the old technology platforms that existed were very sort of like vertically aligned in terms of silos. They were very ticket focused. The framework didn't allow for flexibility across channels or different routing or different reporting. The metrics were oftentimes sort of internally based versus customer centered. It obviously sort of supported a lot of the reactive mode, cost center. Okay, we're going to wait until customers raise issues. We want to be more, that whole model of like waiting for the phone to ring or waiting for the chats to come in. That's sort of an old school legacy model. And it had a siloed view of the customer where you didn't know who that customer was, or if you did, you didn't have a view across all the different channels that they were using to engage the brand. The modern approach, much more horizontal, much more people-focused. The framework to move from channel to channel, the ability to actually look at customer-based metrics, and getting into a more proactive outreach model and having a single view of the customer. All of those are really core elements and core principles that Gladly has built into the platform. You're going to hear about a little of that with Mara today and her story, and you're going to see it certainly in the demo as well. So Justin, I'm going to hand over to you to let you sort of take the next of this and talk about Stella and introduce the folks on the webinar today to Stella for those who don't know it. And then we'll move into our conversation with Mara.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. And yeah, a lot of the things Mike references is really how Gladly and Stella work really nicely together in terms of putting the customer first, understanding the sentiment, understanding really a lot of the variables and the components of an interaction or a conversation. So as you see here, we're Stella Connect. So a little bit of a high level overview. Stella is all about combining customer feedback, QA, and coaching into one platform that really helps you get more visibility into your performance and improvement across frontline teams. And so I've seen already in the chat some call outs around how does this support big teams and smaller teams. It's that concept of increased visibility, whether you have outsourced teams, whether you have different lines of business, having that visibility into performance is crucial, especially at the frontline team member level. And so Stella Connect, through collecting customer feedback and a QA process, helps to really drive that visibility and helps managers and team leads help to prioritize how they're going to coach, where they're going to take action, where they can recognize. Really, recognition is a huge piece of this. And so what we'll do is we'll kind of go through at high level some of those areas of the tool and what that looks and feels like. So agent level feedback. So I think we all are aware of survey platforms and different ways to get that customer feedback. Stella wanted to come from a more unique approach of how do we humanize the experience after the conversation? How do we provide a survey that references the agent that you worked with or the team member you worked with and getting that feedback about that team member? So you see in the example here with the survey, how did Mariana do on that recent call? How would you rate the call on a 1 to 5 star scale? And that just little simplicity of a photo and a bio really opens up the customer to engage more with the survey. And naturally, through that engagement of the survey, you're going to get really actionable insights and ways to be able to take action as the agent yourself, taking accountability, or as the team lead from a coaching and recognition perspective. So what you see here is the survey and as well as some of the insights you can get. And to those actionable insights on the right in the survey, so not only will we ask for that simple star rating, which can be that CSAT score, also getting free-form comments. What did the customer really feel? And you'll see through the comments, customers will open up and tell you a lot about how, not only what they thought about the experience, the agent themselves, but also the products and the brand. So there's always really great nuggets and things you can use from these pieces of feedback that are just going to help throughout the organization. But we want to focus on the frontline team member. So you see that last little question there at the bottom. What did Mariana do particularly well? So we want to collect soft skill behaviors, whether it's for improvement or for that recognition and reinforcement to say, you know what, Mariana was really empathetic, or she was really friendly and went above and beyond. Those are the things, as you're growing a small team, you really want to instill in trainings and onboardings and make sure Those are the core values that live throughout the organization and the CX team. But if you're a larger team, then you want to recognize, you want to spotlight who's really doing it well in terms of showing those soft skill behaviors. So not only will the survey facilitate that, on the left you see how the agents themselves can have visibility and immediate access to that data. And we really wanted to open that up at the frontline level so agents had a good understanding on how they're doing, where they can improve, and what they should really focus on. And that's going to help really open up the conversation from the top down to the bottom. In regards to quality assurance, so through the surveys, you're seeing external feedback. You're getting that customer feedback. You're getting that voice of the customer through the way the survey is set up and the questions that you're asking. But you got to have that counterbalance of the internal quality. How are we doing from a training perspective and a coaching perspective? Are we doing the things that we expect you to do? Even though the customer gave you 5 stars and gave you a glowing review, maybe you gave away the store. Maybe you didn't necessarily follow your policies and processes that you should be doing. So with our QA platform in real time, you have that ability to do a deep dive into that conversation using our customized scorecards and rubrics, really target the areas that can be improved or spotlight as successes. And so you see through reporting and the QA workflow, which we'll demo for you a little bit later, you have a really great opportunity to get that balance of external and internal feedback through both. And then, of course, through getting external and internal feedback, that's going to ultimately tee up, how do I coach? And how do I facilitate coaching in a very transparent and smart way that creates awareness and visibility? And so we have a one-on-one coaching platform that really allows you to document what the conversations are about, what the agent should be focusing on, and not only things that they need to improve. We have something as simple as a kudos, which spotlights really great behaviors and allows that agent to feel the positive reinforcement from their team lead. So taking all the data and all those insights you're getting, using our one-on-one tool really helps for that coaching management piece. So with Stella, we're really focused on teams and performance management and improving metrics and really helping you achieve your goals. But let's not forget, is what Mike was mentioning earlier, the customer, and having the customer at the center of everything. And one extra component of Stella Connect is our service recovery feature. And service recovery is that concept of, I got negative feedback and it happened just about an hour ago. The conversation took place and they gave us a 1 star. It was not the best experience. They're very upset. They walked away with an unresolved issue. How can I use integrations with what we have with Gladly or other CRMs to be able to triage that feedback, prioritize that, and make sure that it's worth reaching back out to the customer? And then not only reaching out to the customer to make it right, which is the most important piece, but measuring that secondary outreach. And so Stella Connect, through our service recovery survey, as you see on the right-hand side there, asks a very simple binary question. Were we able to make up for that poor experience? And by measuring that yes or no, you're going to be able to say, I'm recovering our customers at X rate. And by recovering those customers, you'll see even in the comments that they leave, they're going to stay loyal to the brand, or they're going to feel a 180 experience from that very, sour taste in their mouth from the 1 star to, oh my goodness, you took the time to call me or reach back out to me and make this right. So we want to help facilitate that program through service recovery to make that valuable not only to your customers, but to the business as well. So those are all areas we'll touch on a little bit later on the demo, but at a high level, these are really the main components of Stella Connect and really where we want to help provide value to your frontline agents as well as all the way up to the organization.
Great, Justin, thank you so much. That's super helpful stuff. We're definitely going to hear more about that, and we're going to see it in action in the demo as part of our main session. And then for those folks who are even interested in learning more about Stella and the offering, there will be a breakout session at the end where you can actually go into the Stella Connect room to learn more. Same holds true for Gladly. So for folks who are learning about Gladly and getting a sense of sort of what we do and how we do it, you're going to see that product demo here in just a little bit, but there also is a breakout session at the end for that. Okay, so without further ado, let's actually move over to what I think is going to be the most interesting and insightful part of the conversation today. We're joined by Mara Castro from Warby Parker. And first off, just thank you, Mara, for being willing to do this and being able to sort of tell your story. So we're really excited about that. You gave us a little bit of an overview at the beginning in terms of just your introduction, but maybe as a starting point, I think many people who are on the webinar today, they know Warby Parker, they know the brand, they at least sort of know the market, and they know the story. But there's probably a lot of sort of insights into how the company got started and what it was about Warby Parker that was compelling and interesting 10 years ago. I kind of think about the direct-to-consumer model today is fairly established, but 10 years ago, Warby Parker was a pioneer in that market. So maybe start out by just talking about who is Warby Parker, what was the company's mission and vision, and then we can kind of dive into the specifics around your role and what you've been able to do with the Warby Parker team over the better part of the last 10 years.
Sure, that sounds good. So Warby Parker did start out with 4 friends that met at business school back in 2008. They were really frustrated with having to spend the price of an iPhone back then in 2008, $400, for a pair of glasses, technology that has existed for several years, for several hundred years. And so they came up with this idea after doing a lot of research into the eyewear industry, that there was space for a new player to come in and offer a better service to customers. So if you go to the next slide, our mission statement, Warby Parker is a transformative lifestyle brand with a lofty objective to offer designer eyewear at a revolutionary price while leading the way for socially conscious businesses. So really thinking through, right, that value delivery to our customers and being able to get $95 pair of glasses. So in the next slide, you'll see that we started, this was our website actually when we launched in February of 2010, a little bit different nowadays, but same kind of foundation. $95 for acetate single vision glasses, wanting to change the way that customers were able to shop for glasses back then by being online only, and offering this world-class customer service where we would be available and be able to make the shopping and ownership experience for glasses really effortless and enjoyable. And knowing that, of course, glasses are a product that you really have to put on your face and see how they look, we introduced this new concept of the home try-on program where you get, for 5 days, 5 pairs, 100% free, and try them on at the comfort of your own home, which, as you can imagine, has been really great these last few months, to give people that convenience to try on the glasses at home. And not only that, not only are you shopping for yourself and getting this really great value, but you also are able to do good at the same time, which is a key part of the business. And so we launched with this program, Buy a Pair, Give a Pair, where every time somebody buys a pair of glasses, we also donate to someone in need, initially through mainly our key partner Vision Spring, which is where Neil actually worked before going to business school. We train local entrepreneurs to give the eye exam in countries all around the world. And then most recently in 2015, we launched a program actually in New York, our hometown, called the Pupils Project, where we partnered with the Department of Education to go into schools and also give glasses to students at school in New York, and then expanded that to Baltimore and Mexico as well. So key part of the business is always making sure that we can provide value to our customers, making sure that we're very customer centric in that way, and making sure that in this day and age, customers don't only want value for themselves, but they want to, of course, feel like they're also having an impact in the world. So having this be a core tenet of who we are, this Buy a Pair, Give a Pair program.
Super, thank you, Mara. So obviously the world today that you have at Warby Parker, in terms of all the things that the brand represents and all the things the brand has accomplished, those are just obviously success stories to sort of share and people know about the brand. But the early days, this was, again, like the direct-to-consumer market, especially in a world that was dominated by these big sort of optical companies that owned essentially the whole end-to-end experience in terms of the prescriptions and then the eyeglasses and all the work that goes into that. Early days, you came in as a very, very early employee to Warby Parker, and the role that you had was focused on customer experience from the very beginning. Let's talk about sort of the importance and sort of the value that Warby Parker placed on the customer experience from the very beginning, and how you sort of had a role to play in building that out.
Yeah, so I think the key example of why or how we focused on customer experience and customer centricity from the very beginning was that I was the first hire, being, I think my official title back then was manager of operations, but really focused on the customer service part of the business, really focused on making sure that we were building this customer centricity. So of course, if you have worked at a startup, you know that if you are one of the first hired employees, you do a little bit of everything. So initially had a little bit of my footing in all of these different areas, from talent management, setting up our HR system, to making sure that we were just having a really great employee experience within the office, to working with our first lab partner in our distribution of home try-ons and lab fulfillment, and changing the way that they were used to doing business as well, with us shipping directly to our consumers, to the facilities. And here I am with a friend at IKEA shopping for our first pieces of furniture for our office, to what we're really here to talk about, the product, tech, and customer engagement piece, really trying to figure out what we could do to set up our team in the best way. As you mentioned, back then, we were really one of the first direct-to-consumer businesses. Really mainly the systems available back then were B2B, not really B2C. There were the B2C ones were much bigger in size, and we really couldn't leverage them. And so we had to go with building all of our systems internally. So I worked with a tech consultant to build our order management system, to transition from, this is a picture of Neil taking customer calls on our kind of like janky microphone system, to figuring out how we would transition from answering phone calls on our cell phones through Google Voice, to I think we went through 5 different phone systems over the last several years, to try to find one that really worked well for us. So definitely a journey. I think across the 10 years, we really wanted to focus on building a philosophy around customer centricity, making sure that our team was very much focused on listening to our customers, making sure that our team was empowered to listen to our customers and take action on that feedback and what they were hearing, to not only provide the very best experience to the customer they were helping at that moment, but then take action to improve customers' experiences in the future, and doing our best to enable all of those experiences through the best processes and systems that we could find.
Yeah, I think that you hit on a really interesting point earlier, actually many points, but one is, in the early days, especially as a company is establishing themselves and growing, you basically, these pictures are great. Like, you basically do whatever it takes to sort of get the company going, to get the programs off the ground, to get the infrastructure in place. And I think one of the things that you just alluded to, which is a great segue, is that one of the components of the success of Warby Parker, it wasn't a software package, it wasn't sort of operational sort of like desk, it wasn't even the supply chain. It was building this culture that customer experience mattered early days at Warby Parker, because you knew that would be a competitive advantage and a durable advantage over the legacy businesses that were there. So if you could create this exceptional customer experience, you'd win loyal customers for life. And so talk to us about sort of that notion of like that CX culture in the organization, and what it's meant as people have come into the organization and then grown into new roles and new opportunities within Warby Parker.
Yeah. So the culture, as I was mentioning, was very much there from the beginning of being a customer-centric organization. Of course, what I'm putting out here, this one frame of mind surpassing expectations formula has evolved as the company has evolved, but very much has been there as a foundation from day one. So we're in the business of creating consistently wonderful, nothing short of amazing experiences and tailoring them to the individual customer down to the smallest interaction. So making sure that we're very detailed oriented from how CX is interacting in every interaction to the customer, to how we have systems, to how we interact across different departments within CX, retail, or other folks across the organization, to make sure that the customer is getting that ideal experience in the end. And as you mentioned in your Gladly presentation, it really all starts with the people. And for us, really, it's the people that we hire into our team, our customer experience advisors, and making sure that they get the training that they need, that they are empowered to provide the very best experience, and also the investment in their own development. And so if we go into the next slide, this is just a snapshot of how we organize our development program within our team. So we bring on advisors at this level 1, where they're really learning the ins and outs of providing the very best experience, what it means to interact with a customer with that Warby tone and voice. What do we want to have that customer experience by shopping with us? To then in skill level 2, which you get through by your performance, from monthly performance scorecards, where we have inputs on qualitative performance, quantitative performance, and Stella is definitely a big input into that. Making sure that they, when they get promoted into the skill level 2, they start getting opportunities for their own development into expert roles within the team, working with different teams across the organization, with the people team, or different parts from marketing to finance to retail, to projects within our own team, and also our optician apprentice program. And so from those experiences, they can then go into skill level 3 and have even further opportunities for development. And so in this way, we've had over 100 people start off from being advisors within our team, and then actually go into other parts of the organization, which we think is not only a really great win for the investment in these employees and helping them progress within their careers within Warby Parker, but also a really great win for our customers, because they then take that empathy, that learning that it takes to be able to interact with customers day in and day out and understand their needs and their wants and their feedback, take that into other departments and be able to bring that level of empathy into their teams that they're then in. And so with this, if you go into the next slide, we then transitioned all of this mentality of our customer experience philosophy, and investing in our employees and learning about what it takes to give our customers what they need, to like that initial setting of going back to 2010 of selling glasses only online, to when we had to shut off our home try-on program because we were really successful right out of the gates 2 weeks in, which was a fun story. I started 15 hours a week and quickly jumped by the third week to 100 hours a week of working. But with shutting down that home try-on program, we then went into having Neil's apartment being our first showroom, our first retail store location, and getting customers to go in there. We started learning from them as to how they interacted with our glasses, how they interacted with the team, what questions they were asking. We then took that into doing pop-ups. In 2012, we then outfitted a school bus with an actual retail store within it and drove it across the entire country to continue to gain that feedback from our customers, and take that input into actually opening this first flagship store, which is located in Green Street in Soho in New York, so that we could go to where customers wanted to experience us, and having access to all of the glasses and having more of that hand-holding experience in person. And so that evolution, of course, has led to not only an evolution in channels, but also the expansion of different products. So since then, we launched our own brand of contacts, as well as selling all sorts of different third-party contacts as well, to selling glasses and mixed metals, different types of glasses, to kids products as well. And then going into also the more innovative technology world of partnering with Apple to be one of the very first to use the iPhone technology of the True Depth camera, so that people could use that camera and get a good recommendation of glasses that would fit them with that camera, to the virtual try-on, which if you haven't used it before, it's eerily accurate. If you actually put on your Warby Parkers and then do the virtual try-on, it's almost like the perfect fit. And just another really great way for customers to be able to shop for our glasses from the convenience of their own home. And I think from here, continuing that theme of feedback and learning from our customers, last piece I wanted to touch on is one really big piece of feedback that we were hearing from customers, mainly through the main channel that we were gathering feedback from our customers from in the early days was NPS, was customers and our team, of course, directly in interacting with customers, is that they were really frustrated that they would have their prescription that they had been using for the last several years. The prescription hadn't changed, and here they were, due to optical regulations, not able to use that same prescription because it was expired. I see Justin nodding his head, and having to then go into an eye doctor again just to get that prescription extended with the same exact prescription. And so from there, we actually launched this app called our prescription app, where you can, based on, of course, eligibility, take a test at home within 20 minutes and get your prescription extended for the next 1 or 2 years. So a great example of us taking feedback from customers, making sure that we're acting on that feedback, and making sure that the company was evolving with the needs of our customers.
Great, Mara, it's great stuff there, and certainly appreciate sort of the evolution and the journey that Warby went through. You sort of talked about feedback, and you talked about the power of feedback and the benefit that it had in terms of engaging the advisors that were on your team. Feedback is clearly an important part of the customer experience. You listen to your customers, you respond. Obviously you're able to sort of evolve and ensure that the customer experience continues to get better and better over time. And this is clearly, as you mentioned, this is clearly where Stella Connect and the team has really been an integral part of that. Let's actually sort of go to sort of like, I think, a highlight, which is, your sort of like the company itself in terms of where Warby Parker sits with regard to Net Promoter relative to the industry at large in terms of like great brands like Apple and USAA and Costco. Like Warby Parker is even higher than them, but like the gap between the traditional optical industry players and Warby Parker, there's a huge gap between the industry average and what Warby has been able to do. Talk to us about sort of how that came about and how the power of feedback allowed you all to do that.
Yeah. NPS is right, like an interesting metric. Definitely, as you look at this slide, what our key takeaway with this is, in looking at, as you were saying, Mike, the other players within the optical industry, there was a huge opportunity to improve the experience that customers were having in shopping for glasses. If anyone on the call, on the webinar, wears glasses, you know that in the past, and maybe you're still doing so and you need to change, you've had to go into an optical store, and the glasses are behind enclosed cases. You then get guided to try on pairs that are kind of getting more and more expensive. You think that you're maybe going to pay $200 for a pair of glasses, but then you have the anti-reflective coating, the anti-scratch coating, the blue light lenses, the yada, yada, yada. And then when you see you're going to pay $500, $600 for a pair of glasses. And so we knew that, right, there was this huge opportunity for us to come in and change that mindset to where customers could come in and have that price transparency from the beginning, and be able to have an enjoyable, effortless, and again, transparent experience throughout it all. I think when kind of looking at our past journey, we have thankfully most of the time been able to keep to this 80s NPS score, and been able to rally the organization whenever we haven't, to be able to mobilize quickly and make sure that we were taking action whenever we did get to those moments and blips in our history, to be able to get back to a good place. And the way that you do that is, again, this value of feedback is not only, of course, caring about the score and the service recovery there, but really making sure that you're listening to that feedback, that you have a way to channel that feedback throughout the organization to make sure that different departments know what actions they need to take to improve the customer's experiences. And when we did have NPS for a long time in the customer history, or in the company history, we didn't necessarily have a really great mechanism to get feedback from for our frontline advisors, which is why we implemented Stella back in 2016 as a way to really focus the feedback there, not only at the right NPS level is how did you feel about Warby and how would you recommend that, but how did you feel about interacting with Mara or whoever it is that you interacted with, to make sure that we were listening to our customers there as to how each individual was doing, and not only acting on any potential feedback there. Thankfully, most of our scores are really great, but more than anything, providing a really great way to engage our team members and seeing all of that great feedback coming in as a way to motivate them to do even better in the future.
Super. So that's amazing. I think that that you said the Net Promoter was great at understanding how did the consumer feel about the brand and the overall brand experience. And that includes the shopping experience, the glasses, the quality, everything else. But then obviously the feedback around the CSAT scores are really critical to ensure that advisor team understands where they're doing well and where they could potentially improve. And that was a lot of what Justin talked about at the beginning, and we're going to show you here in just a little bit as well. So if we kind of look forward, I know we're getting close on time here, so we may have to sort of move a little bit quickly through this, but sort of the vision for the future and this notion of customer-centered service. One of the things that I think I was most intrigued about when you and I first met 18 months or so ago was that you had this vision of and this goal of delivering customer-centered service, but the technology and the infrastructure that existed back many years ago didn't allow you to do that. But now that's changed, right? Obviously, you have some new innovations, some new technology with Gladly to leverage. You also have a team, and you have a team of leaders that are thinking about this cross-functionally within the customer experience group. Tell us about where we are now. It's 2020, it's 10 years later, a lot has happened and a lot has changed. How do you think about sort of this year as well as the future in terms of that customer-centered service experience, leveraging both the team you have, the experience of the last 10 years, and also the technology investments you're making along the way?
Yeah, so as you can see here in this slide, we have our team focused around the engagement, which is mostly all of our advisors and order processing team members, to our strategy and operations, working on understanding what our team and customer needs are, to our product team, which is investing in that technology, and the order management, thinking through how can we make the order management process more seamless for customers. And so, over the last 10 years, as I was mentioning in the very beginning, we didn't have a lot of the systems that exist today available to us. to have a tech-enabled team to be able to provide the best services for our customers, right? And so was definitely very challenging to, as I mentioned earlier, skip around across several different phone systems to still invest in our own system and try to build that out. But we're not in the business of building a CRM. We're in the business of selling glasses. And so haven't, of course, been able to spend that much time and resources in it as we would have hoped. And so over the last few years have definitely invested in figuring out what our journey would be to further tech enable our team. So we started with actually a learning management system to begin with, along with Stella, to then going into our workforce management system, to then last year selecting Gladly, and in the process of implementing that new system. Because if you go to the next slide, we've had quite an evolution of team growth and roles within our team. So we're now comprised of over 450 people across different locations. So we have a few team members at our Sloatsburg lab in New York, a few team members in New York headquarters, mainly kind of like our support roles, but a few engagement advisors to make sure that that connection with the organization is still there. But then most of our advisors that are interacting with customers are either in our Nashville HQ. Well, they were until recently, and then mostly everyone remote across around the Nashville office and spread out across a few states. So with that, not only do we have this spread in geography, but we also in 2016 introduced a part-time role. Up to that point had only had a full-time role within office. And so in 2016, we introduced that part-time role that was work from home. And from there, we now actually have 5 different roles across different types of interactions, different types of responsibilities, to make sure that we could just get the flexibility and the adaptability that we needed within the organization based on our company needs as we evolved. So as you can imagine, with this spread in geography, the spread in roles and responsibilities, it's more and more essential to have a great system that you can rely on, that can have, as to what you were mentioning earlier, Mike, that seamless routing, that people can just be in their seats and get the interactions that we want them to get at the timeliness that we want them to get them, so that they can really focus on doing their job well and not having to focus on shifting interactions and shifting focus. And so if you go to the next slide, we are, of course, focused on all of these different interactions, and just working on perfecting how we can continue to provide the best interactions to our customers, as Mike again was mentioning, in a way that doesn't feel disjointed, because we are now in 4 different systems, and kind of like shifting back and forth, and don't have the perfect vision for one team members to see. Mike called us and he actually then chatted us a bit later, and now he's via email. You'd have to jump through a bunch of different systems and hoops to be able to get that whole story. So now that we'll be in Gladly, we'll be able to see all of that in one place and really focus on that holistic customer experience that we want to deliver.
Perfect. That's a great segue, Mara. Thank you for sharing all of those insights.
Yeah.
Again, just it's just the last 10 years, my guess is it feels like 10 days and it feels like 20 years at the same time. It's probably like just a blur of all the different things that are happening. But it's a great segue into actually showing folks who are on the line a little bit about what that vision is. Like, so the idea around bringing all the channels in one, bringing all of the capabilities around a very customer-centered service model in Gladly, and then how the integration with Stella Connect, where when an interaction is completed inside of Gladly, how that can be triggering a survey request to go out to the customer. We're going to show you exactly how all that works. So let me go ahead and do a little bit of a shift here. I'm going to stop sharing that screen, and I'm going to share a different screen here. So just bear with me while I do this. And I will go ahead and jump over into my demo and show you guys this. And what I thought we would do as I go in here and share my screen is I would start with the customer experience. So everyone should be able to see that. Mark, can we see that okay as far as the Warby Parker website? Sorry, Mark, can you all see the Warby Parker site?
I'm not seeing it. I only see you. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Okay, let's try this. Let's see. How about now?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, and then if you can see the Gladly demo screen as well. If I toggle.
Yep, that's there.
Okay, super. Okay, so we're going to do this quite quickly. We're a little bit over time, but that was time well spent, I think, in terms of getting things going. What I want to show folks is the experience that we just described, right? So the experience, and in fact, what I'll do also is I'm going to turn off my camera so people don't have to worry about me seeing and watching the screen here. But we're going to show you what that experience looks like that we just described, which is customers move from channel to channel seamlessly, because everybody has iPhones and Android devices where they can make a phone call, they can do text messaging, they can do web chat, or they can do in-app chat, and they can post something on Twitter DM. They can use all of these channels essentially whenever they want, whatever is most convenient for them. But the backend systems traditionally have not been able to allow the agents or the advisors, in the case of Warby, to be able to really seamlessly move from channel to channel. So we're going to actually show you what that looks like and how that actually all plays out. So we're going to start with the customer experience, and the customer experience in this particular case is going to start with a live chat. So Gladly has a live chat capability, what we call Sidekick, and Sidekick is a combination of both self-service as well as assisted service. So self-service is this ability, as I go into my sort of Sidekick experience, I can search for answers, I can go and click on links to do order status, I can find, if there's some common questions that come in quite often from customers, customer experience teams can sort of configure this view to sort of highlight the questions that are most often asked. And therefore, if people have questions about the home try-on experience, you can go ahead and click on that. And you can actually view self-service articles and content that's available for people. So that question may be answered in terms of the content that's here. At the same time, I might actually want to try, ask a question specifically about the try-on program. Is the try-on program still valid with COVID-19, right? That's the question that's kind of coming here. So we're going to just start the chat, very basic, very easy, very simple there. We're going to move over into Gladly, and what you'll notice is that chat is being routed to me, and I'm going to go ahead and accept that particular customer's chat inside of Gladly. So now I'm in the advisor view or the agent view, and what you'll see first and foremost is, and we're going to go through this fairly quickly. So for folks who want to have more details and more specifics around how this all works, please go ahead and join in on the breakout session. But the idea here is that what has been routed to me is a customer, and the customer is Julie. And what Gladly is able to do is we're able to bring relevant information about who is Julie. So the information on the left-hand panel, you can see who is this customer, what is their status, are they part of the VIP program or a loyalty program, how long have they been a customer, what's their lifetime spend. Any and all attributes that exist in backend systems that allow for agents or advisors to have a better understanding of who the customer is. We want to present that information to the advisor or the agent so that when they're engaging with Julie, the customer, they don't have to be searching different tabs, they don't have to be searching different systems. All that information is right here. We also have the ability to pull purchase history from order management systems or e-commerce platforms that allow for, again, contextual understanding of past purchases, styles, where oftentimes if someone is asking about a question in terms of service, it's likely because it's related to a past purchase that was happening as well. Below that, we can have information like style preferences, in particular with Warby, like the ability to actually understand what's your style preference. Do you like round frames or square frames, or do you like sort of different materials or what have you? All that stuff can be actually added into the customer's profile so that when the advisor is engaging that customer, they can deliver more personalized service knowing what that customer prefers and what they like. Relationships is a concept, again, around sort of how do you connect sort of different customers inside of Gladly along the way. And we'll go ahead and you can kind of connect sort of customers that are in the system as well. On the right-hand side, what you'll see is the conversation timeline, as we discussed earlier. In this case, we're going to show just a couple of examples. In this case, there were a couple of emails that Julie sent in, didn't get a response, so she chatted in. As a result of that, now the chat program is up here. I have the ability to chat back. I can say, thanks, we do still offer this during COVID-19. So again, that answer goes back to the customer. Everything is good. Back and forth dialogue happens there. Let's assume that is part of that conversation. The customer says, hey, I have a question. Can I call you, right? Can I call you? And the answer obviously is yes, you can. And what I'm going to show you is what life looks like when the customer switches the channel into voice. So in this particular case, I, as an advisor, am working in the digital channels of email and chat. What you'll also see that happens next is a voice call is going to get queued up, and I'm going to make myself ready for voice. And the voice call is going to be routed to me in the browser, and I'm going to accept that voice call. And you'll now see there's a live active voice call in the conversation timeline that simply is just yet another component or another sort of like interaction inside of this ongoing conversation timeline that I'm having with Julie. So again, the advisor who is picking up this phone call may be the same advisor that's doing the chat, or maybe the same advisor that's doing the email, but it also could be a day later or a week later, and the customer is calling in. What you'll notice is that within Gladly, I have this natively built embedded voice system where I have all the call controls that I would ever need to have around muting myself, putting the customer on hold. I can transfer calls, I can conference call in, I can do all the different aspects of a natively built voice system, and it's all included inside of the browser experience inside of Gladly. In addition to that, I can switch over. I can actually sort of switch, just like the customer switched from email to chat and then chat to voice. I, as an advisor, can also switch from voice to SMS. So I'm going to go ahead and say, thanks, here is your confirmation code. And again, it's going to be this number here, send it over there. And what you'll not see, but it's happening on my phone, is I just got that text message in. I can go ahead and say, thanks so much. Put a little emoji in there because we all like emojis, and send that back. And you'll notice that it's real time going right back into the conversation timeline. So I have this experience where I've now started with an email chat, which then goes into a text message exchange, or excuse me, a chat exchange, then to a voice call, and the voice call is still happening. Now I'm actually doing SMS exchange. And what I can do at the very, very end is I can reply with the chat and say, hope we resolved your issue. Thanks so much. And go ahead and complete that chat and send that back over. In addition to that, I can also apply a topic in here, which is, again, it's a home try-on question. Machine learning understood that was the question that was being asked because of the context of the information that was there. I can go ahead and apply that topic. Also, if I wanted to see any additional communication that actually happened, I can actually just simply scroll up and I can see all of the history of communication that's ever happened between Julie and the brand Warby Parker in this case, across all the interactions, and everything is organized by time, and everything is basically sort of like created in one single view. So regardless of the channel that Julie is using to engage, the advisor at Warby Parker is able to see everything in one place. I'm gonna go ahead and end this phone call. And then the last chat, I'll be like, thanks again. I'm gonna say, go ahead and send that out the door. Now what I'm gonna do on the back end is I'm gonna end the chat and I'm gonna close the conversation. When I do that, what's happening behind the scenes is Gladly is triggering Stella Connect to issue and send a customer CSAT survey out to, in this case, Julie, to ask her feedback and to get her insight as to how well did that conversation go and what was the experience like. So this should be happening on the back end. One of our folks should be sort of getting that survey feedback. And then when that feedback and that survey is delivered, what ends up happening is that we can write back into the Gladly conversation timeline. As you see here, you can see the actual survey come back directly into Gladly. And so again, as Maura mentioned, so the power of both feedback as well as engagement of the advisors in terms of seeing, looking at, reviewing, and responding to the feedback, all of that is incredibly valuable in terms of allowing the advisors to see and experience the feedback that's coming in. So we should see that coming through here. If we don't see that, we'll go ahead and shift over to Justin in just a minute here. And then we'll allow Justin to pick up things and allow him to sort of have a conversation. Okay, so here comes the Stella feedback survey coming back in. And again, this is real time. This is not something that the agent has to do. They don't have to interact with the experience or interact with Gladly. What's happening behind the scenes is that Gladly and Stella have this natively built embedded integration so that when the conversation is completed, we ask the customer about that feedback. The feedback comes directly back into the conversation timeline. So the next time any customer service advisor or agent is engaging with Julie, they can see the last engagement was a 5 out of 5 star, really happy with the experience. If that advisor wants to view the results or view the actual details specifically about what that feedback looked like and to dig into more details around the performance, they can go ahead and click on that view results button, which will then bring it over into the Stella Connect system, which I'm going to have Justin share on his screen so he can actually show you exactly how that experience happens as well. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to let Justin take over on that.
Hey, Mike, thank you so much. And just for a time check, I know our breakout room's opened up. Would you like us to switch this to our breakout room or should we maybe have a different start time?
Yeah, I think we should push the start time out just a few minutes. I think let's keep going on this. I think this is a good segue into this. So maybe for the folks who are waiting for the breakouts, let's make sure everybody is still here in this session. So we may want to have folks come back over into the main session. So maybe for folks that are in and supervising and coordinating the breakout sessions, let's have folks come back over in the chat if we can do that.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Well, as we're waiting a couple minutes for that, and I'll get everything set up on my end, Maura, just want to say thank you so much for sharing all that great content and those stories. It's amazing to see the growth of Warby Parker. And I usually have great Warby glasses. I decided to wear my contacts today, but that's why I was nodding my head because you guys do make the customer experience amazing. And looks like you're really actualizing and operationalizing all the great feedback you get. So love to see that. So bringing it back to Mike's demo that he just provided. Mike, thank you for walking through that. I want to first take a step back and say, I know we showed one little screenshot of what the Stella Connect survey can look like, but I want to give a little more context is what the customer, so what Julie Chang received from that agent and be able to provide feedback. So bear with me 1 second as I will be doing the same thing that Mike did. I will share my screen. Cool. All right, and I'm hoping for the crew, everyone can see the Stella Connect survey flow. Mike, can you confirm that for me?
Yeah, we can see your Google slide. Yep.
Perfect. Just to make that a little bit, hopefully, more visible to the group.
Yeah, looks
great.
Good.
So getting content as to what questions are able to be asked in the survey, and we touched on this, but just I will show you what the survey flow looks like, and then what the results look like in the Stella Connect stream. So as you can see here, from the beginning, that right after that conversation has been closed, we'll send that question that asks, how would you rate the caller? How would you rate your satisfaction with the service you received from Julie? In this example, it's our friendly agent Mariana, but you can do great things like have a photo, you can have an avatar, something that humanizes it. But once the customer goes ahead and starts engaging with the survey, it opens up the ability to add comments and additional details. And then we have either a rewards or what we call areas of excellence option. So the rewards option is a really great way to motivate and have a rewards program for the team to say, hey, Mariana, you did such a great job. You get a coffee, and with 20 votes of coffee, we're going to give you a Starbucks gift card at the end of the month. So Stella really helps to facilitate and give that guidance when it comes to fun incentive programs like rewards. And because it's directly attributed to the customer telling you that, it makes it that much more special. For those that don't want to necessarily utilize a budget for a rewards program, but want ways to spotlight great behaviors, this is that areas of excellence option. And when there's 4 and 5-star feedback, which is the positive flow, that allows you to give what particularly went well and what that agent did well. So using this data, and we'll show you what it looks like in the stream for Stella Connect, is a great way to spotlight great behaviors. On the opposite side, just skipping over this middle question here for a second, areas of improvement. When it is a negative interaction, which we call 1, 2, or 3 stars, we're going to ask the question, how can we improve? And what are those soft skill behaviors? And these are all customizable based on what your team and your business would like to focus on. But getting that great feedback to know, you know what, your effort could have been better, your professionalism wasn't up to par, knowledge is a thing. These are all great triggers and indicators of potential coaching opportunities to really specifically hone in on. So these areas of improvement give you that data point. Now you've collected a lot of great data about the agent and their performance. What about an additional question? And I know Mara touched on this with the NPS piece of it. One immediate additional question that Stella allows you to ask is first contact resolution and being able to understand, did we solve your problem? Yes or no? And getting that very quick and easy answer will tell you how often are you having your customers walk away satisfied with a resolved issue or walked away potentially frustrated, having them to call you back or reach back out to you when you really want to try to reduce those contacts and make it right on the first try. So this indicator by asking first contact resolution is a great way to do that. So really high level, wanted to just quickly go through that. And now if you forgive me, I'm going to flip my screen one more time as I'm going to show you the Stella Connect stream and setup. Great, and just confirmation, we can all see the Stella Connect stream 93.6?
Can do.
Great. So as Mike mentioned, in the CRM, in Gladly itself, you're able to see the feedback as it comes in real time, but I'm logged in currently as a team leader, which can be a supervisor or manager, someone that has direct reports, and know that in the Stella Connect platform, I can see that feedback in real time as well. So we have a great high-level dashboard across the top that gives you that immediate idea of what's my average star rating, what are the top 3 areas to improve for my team, and what are the top 3 areas of excellence I should really be spotlighting. But when you want to dig a little bit deeper, as you see as I scroll through here, I can see all the responses from the customers and be able to see the comments, what those areas of excellence were for each response, and then for that first contact resolution question, whether the issue was resolved or not. In addition to that, is the integration with Gladly becomes so robust in such an impactful way. How do I pass those topics, or in Stella Connect, what we call tags? How do I provide more context as to what the interaction was about? So in Stella Connect, if I hit something where it says show details, not only do I get information about the customer, what channel the interaction was hosted on, maybe the interaction ID or the ticket number or the conversation number, maybe it's for a multiple brand or another part of the business, I can also get those tags passed through. So I know immediately for this 5-star response for Sarah, she has the interaction or conversation was about orders and billing. So what a great way to take this feedback and be able to take immediate action based on all this great content you're able to see. So at a high level, Stella Connect through the stream shows that feedback in real time. But as I mentioned, we have external feedback from your customers, but you want that internal opportunity to do a deeper dive into the process. So that's our quality assurance piece. So you see here, Stella Connect believes quality assurance should have a lot of different ways that you trigger a true quality review. And that's whether it's based off the customer feedback, and you can see based off this 5-star, if I wanted to review it, I have the option to do it right off the feedback. Most recent interactions, we've heard through other QA processes that sometimes reviews are done off of interactions or conversations that happened weeks ago. There's not an opportunity for the agent to really take that feedback, whether it's positive or potentially constructive, to be able to really make a change, because sometimes we don't remember what we had for breakfast this morning. And so being able to have a great idea of when these conversations took place and looking at recent interactions, which then allow you to start a quality review, is another great way to trigger that workflow. And then we also have the more classic ways of reviewing randomized interactions for a particular team member. Also want to give a shout out and give an opportunity for on our call right now, we have Alex Richards, who's our Director of Partnerships, who wants to talk a little bit about that quality program as well as what the quality setup looks like. So Alex, I know you want to touch upon this.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, so just with regards to the quality assurance piece, I think the way that we look at Stella is there's a number of different pillars to a business, and the underlying component of that is actionable information, so you can make decisions on that and coach to those as well. So as Justin mentioned, under the QA component on here, after an interaction's ended or a conversation in Gladly, we'll pull through the transcript, the recording in here as well. And one of the really nice things about our platform is, depending on the stage of where your business is at, maybe you have a not so developed QA program, maybe you have a really robust QA program, we can grow with you. So if you want to just annotate some stuff, maybe you don't need a scorecard that's weighted or has auto fails, you can start off there and then grow as you grow your business. And the scorecards are completely flexible. You can build them, change them, they're archived as you go along. And then additionally in here as well, we also have a pretty robust assignments feature as well. So rather than you having to manually go ahead and pick these components within here, you can actually set criteria. So rather than you having to work hard, you can work smarter, and we can help you with that heavy lift on there as well.
Great, thank you, Alex. And so with the customer feedback, with the QA piece of it, we have some really great reporting that's going to put that all into one place. So as a team lead, I can really focus on the major metrics or KPIs that I really want to hone in on. So here's an example for, as a team lead, being able to dive in deeper for my team and understand ultimately how their star rating or how their CSAT is performing. Maybe FCR is something I want to dig into, and here's that result of their previous responses. But then I want to also look at the QA piece. And so looking at we talk about visibility, looking at the frequency of QA reviews or the average scores to run my program. This gives you that ability to look at those all together, because the last piece of the puzzle here, and want to make sure we can kick off our breakout rooms, is where we can go into a lot deeper dive on each of these areas, is we talked about coaching. And so we offer the ability to begin coaching sessions in Stella Connect and being able to track the quantity of those coachings. And in Stella, we call that one-on-ones. And so I can see here for Aaron's agent, Maria, she's had 5 coaching sessions in the last 30 days. And here were some of the topics they talked about. And it looks like it had to do with quality or potentially other topics. And then when I look into each of those one-on-one sessions, I can actually go in and look at all of the feedback associated with that session and be able, as the agent, to have that visibility into what was talked about in my one-on-one, but also as the coach and manager, be able to track this over time and make sure that I'm holding my team members accountable to some of those actions of things they should be working on, or potentially some positive feedback I've given them. So really take away, you can see the feedback in real time, you can trigger a quality review, which will probably result in some forms of actions being taken, which can be that coaching or recognition part of it. So as a nice tee up for our Stella Connect breakout, we'll definitely be able to dive in deeper on each of those areas and functionality, as well as answer any questions you have. So Mike, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Justin, and thanks, Alex. And Mara, thank you again for all that you shared with us today. The one thing I will also share, just as a final sort of thought on that integration, Justin, that you talked about, in the product demo that we showed from Gladly, we showed the front end, which is we showed the customer interaction, the channels, all the different sort of abilities for the consumer to engage the brand in different channels, which then initiated the CSAT survey to get sent out. But then also, as Alex mentioned, from a QA perspective, that conversation timeline, the phone call, the chat, the text message, and the email thread, that all can be pulled out in real time and put into the QA tool, so you can annotate the entire experience inside of Stella. So it's not just that you're scoring the phone call or scoring the chat interaction, you're actually scoring the entire conversation around that particular issue. And if the customer moves from channel to channel, essentially you're doing is you're scoring the entire experience that that customer had across all those channels. And Gladly's ability to sort of like make that content available, and Stella's ability to pull that into the QA tool, allows you to actually annotate and look at the specific conversation across all those channels as part of that experience. So with that said, Some folks have already sort of reached the breakout sessions. The breakouts are open. We're running a little bit behind, but I think it was definitely sort of a good use of time to sort of dig into the story that Mara shared. But you'll notice if anybody, there's 2 breakout sessions. There's a Gladly breakout session and a Stella Connect breakout session in the webinar platform. If you'd like, choose one of those platforms. You can learn more about Gladly. You can learn more about Stella. And for those folks who do end up going there, thank you for your time today. We're going to keep the webinar going. We've got a couple of folks that are in those rooms already standing by to answer questions. So again, I appreciate everybody's time today. Again, Mara, thank you for your time in terms of sharing your story and sharing the experience that you've had. Really insightful, and I know a lot of folks are going to take a lot from that conversation. So thank you for that. So with that said, I'll let everybody sort of jump out into meetings and different groups and breakouts, and appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.